The Arizona sun beat down mercilessly on the pristine windows of Scottsdale's most prestigious luxury car dealership. Will Smith stood in the parking lot, taking a moment to survey what was now his newest acquisition. He adjusted his deliberately chosen outfit, a simple grey hoodie that had seen better days, paired with worn jeans and scuffed sneakers. The ensemble was a far cry from his usual attire, but it served a purpose. Inside, the showroom hummed with the quiet efficiency of a well-oiled machine. The air conditioning created a pleasant escape from the desert heat, while the gleaming vehicles caught the morning light, their immaculate surfaces reflecting the wealth and prestige the establishment had cultivated over years. The fresh scent of leather and subtle hints of new car fragrance filled the air. The employees moved about their morning routines, some arranging brochures with meticulous care, others huddled in small groups, discussing their sales targets. None of them knew that their workplace had just changed hands, or that their new owner was about to walk through the door in the most unexpected way. Will pushed open the heavy glass doors, immediately feeling the weight of suspicious glances from the staff. He moved deliberately between the rows of luxury vehicles, his fingers occasionally trailing along their polished surfaces. His casual appearance stood in stark contrast to the opulent surroundings and the formally dressed employees. Among the staff, Karen's presence commanded attention. Her reputation preceded her, known throughout the dealership for her impressive sales record and equally notable attitude. Her platinum blonde hair was pulled back severely, emphasizing her sharp features and the calculating look in her eyes, as she spotted Will from her position near the newest model displays. She approached him with the kind of smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Can I help you?" Her tone carried a barely concealed note of disdain as she assessed his casual attire, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against her designer clipboard. "Yes, actually," Will replied warmly, maintaining a pleasant demeanor. "I'm interested in looking at some of your newer models today." He gestured toward a particular luxury vehicle that had just arrived last week, its price tag more than most people's annual salary. Karen's laugh was sharp and dismissive. "Perhaps," she suggested, already beginning to guide him toward a different area, "you'd be more comfortable looking at our pre-owned selection? We have some excellent options that might better suit your situation." Will noticed the subtle exchanges of glances between other employees, some appearing uncomfortable with Karen's obvious prejudice, others seemingly accustomed to such treatment of clients who didn't fit their expected profile. The atmosphere grew increasingly tense as he stood his ground. "Actually," he insisted calmly, "I'm quite interested in discussing that new model." He pointed specifically to one of the most expensive vehicles in the showroom, its metallic finish gleaming under the carefully arranged lighting. Karen's patience visibly thinned. "Sir," she began, her tone becoming more condescending, "that particular vehicle is rather exclusive. Maybe we should discuss financing options first." The suggestion came with an unmistakable undertone of skepticism. Will maintained his composure, though a slight firmness entered his voice. "I'd prefer to speak with the owner first, if possible." He pulled out his phone, his fingers hovering over the keypad. "I'm afraid that's not possible," Karen replied automatically. "The owner isn't available for preliminary inquiries." Her emphasis on the last words made her meaning clear. She didn't consider him a serious customer. Without breaking eye contact, Will dialed a number. The call set in motion a chain of events that would transform the entire dealership. Within moments, the atmosphere in the showroom shifted dramatically as various managers emerged from their offices, their faces displaying growing recognition and alarm. The truth of Will's identity began to dawn on Karen's face, her carefully maintained professional mask cracking as realization set in. The showroom fell into a hushed silence, the morning's casual activities frozen in a moment of collective shock. Will Smith, their new owner, had just experienced firsthand the kind of prejudice that could destroy not just sales, but the very reputation of the business he'd just acquired. The conference room of the luxury dealership had never felt more suffocating. The morning's events had led to this moment, an emergency staff meeting called by their unexpected new owner. Will Smith stood at the head of the table, his casual attire now carrying an entirely different meaning. Karen sat rigid in her chair, her usual confidence replaced by careful neutrality as she struggled to process the morning's turn of events. The room buzzed with nervous energy as every employee, from sales staff to support personnel, waited for Will to speak. The contrast between his relaxed demeanor and the gravity of the situation only heightened the tension. Through the large windows, the Arizona sun continued its relentless ascent, casting long shadows across the polished conference table. "Let's talk about first impressions," Will began, his voice calm but carrying unmistakable authority. "They're important in our industry, aren't they?" His eyes swept across the room, lingering momentarily on Karen. But perhaps not in the way some of us have come to believe. The employees shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Many had witnessed Karen's interaction with Will earlier, and some had participated in the subtle exchanges of knowing looks and dismissive gestures. Now, those same actions felt like evidence of a deeper problem within their workplace culture. "When I decided to purchase this dealership," Will continued, "I knew its reputation for excellence, the quality of the vehicles, the prestigious location, the impressive sales figures." He paused, letting his words sink in. "But I wanted to understand something more fundamental, how we treat people when we think no one is watching." Karen's fingers interlocked tightly in her lap, her knuckles white with tension. Her carefully constructed world of assumptions and prejudices was being dismantled in front of her colleagues, and there was nowhere to hide. "I chose this outfit deliberately," Will gestured to his hoodie and jeans, "because I wanted to experience what countless potential customers might face when they walk through our doors. What I discovered was both disappointing and, unfortunately, not surprising." The air conditioning hummed quietly in the background as Will shared his observations from the morning. He described the subtle ways prejudice had manifested, the dismissive glances, the assumptions about financial capability, the steering toward pre-owned vehicles without any discussion of preferences or needs. "This isn't just about one interaction or one employee," Will emphasized, though Karen felt the weight of his words acutely. "This is about a culture that we need to transform. Excellence in luxury car sales isn't just about knowing our products or closing deals. It's about treating every person who walks through those doors with genuine respect and dignity." Outlined his vision for change, comprehensive training programs, new customer service protocols, and a fundamental shift in how success would be measured. The focus would expand beyond sales figures to include customer experience metrics and feedback from all demographic groups. "Starting tomorrow," Will announced, "we begin this transformation. Some of you may find it challenging to adjust. Others might discover that this new approach aligns perfectly with your values. Either way, I expect everyone in this room to commit to this change." Karen's perfectly maintained exterior showed tiny cracks as Will continued. Her usual strategies, charm, assertiveness, even intimidation, seemed useless in this new paradigm. She had built her career on reading people, on knowing exactly how to approach different types of clients. But now those very skills were being called into question. "Ms. Mitchell," Will addressed her directly, causing the room to grow even quieter. "Your sales records speak to your capabilities, but I wonder, how many potential clients never made it into those statistics because of preconceptions about their appearance or background?" The question hung in the air, unanswered, but heavy with implication. Karen's throat tightened as she felt the eyes of her colleagues on her, many of whom had admired and emulated her approach over the years. As the meeting drew to a close, Will made one final announcement. "I believe in second chances and the capacity for change, but I also believe in accountability. In the coming weeks, each of you will have the opportunity to demonstrate your commitment to our new direction. Those who embrace this change will find opportunities for growth. Those who resist..." He let the sentence hang unfinished, its meaning clear to everyone in the room. The following weeks at the luxury dealership brought a whirlwind of changes that left no aspect of the business untouched. Will Smith's vision for transformation manifested in ways both subtle and dramatic, from new training protocols to completely reorganized sales approaches. The showroom itself remained as pristine as ever, but the atmosphere had shifted noticeably. Karen found herself struggling to adapt to the new reality. Her sales numbers, once consistently at the top of the board, had begun to slip. The carefully crafted persona she had maintained for years, the one that had earned her both success and that notorious reputation, seemed increasingly out of place in the dealership's evolving culture. One particular morning she arrived early, as was her habit. The sunrise painted the showroom in soft golden hues, the vehicles gleaming like precious jewels under the early light. She paused at her desk, noting the new customer satisfaction surveys that had become a crucial part of their performance metrics. Her perfect manicure tapped against the stack of papers, each one a potential judgment of her ability to adapt. "Good morning, Karen," Will's voice carried across the showroom. He had developed a habit of arriving early himself, often engaging with employees one-on-one before the day officially began. "Do you have a moment?" Karen straightened her spine, smoothing her already immaculate blazer. "Of course, Mr. Smith." The formality in her tone reflected the distance she still maintained, a shield against the changes threatening her carefully constructed world. They walked together through the rows of luxury vehicles, their footsteps echoing in the quiet space. Will stopped beside a particular car, the same model Karen had tried to steer him away from on that first day. "Tell me," he said, his voice gentle but probing, "what do you see when you look at this vehicle?" Karen blinked, caught off guard by the seemingly simple question. "It's our flagship model. Premium leather interior, advanced safety features, 12-cylinder engine." She rattled off specifications with practiced ease. "No," Will interrupted softly. "What do you see when you look at it? Not as a salesperson, but as someone who appreciates beauty, achievement, aspiration." The question hung in the air between them. Karen's carefully maintained expression wavered slightly as she considered her answer. "I see." She hesitated. "I see something I once thought was out of my reach." Will turned to her, surprise registering on his face. Karen continued, her voice growing quieter but more genuine than he'd ever heard it. "My father was a mechanic. He could fix anything with an engine, but he could never afford to own one of these. I promised myself I would succeed in this industry, prove that I belonged here. And now," Will prompted. "Now I realize I've been keeping others from feeling like they belong," Karen admitted, the words seeming to surprise even her. "I became what I once resented." The morning light strengthened, casting long shadows across the showroom floor. In the distance, other employees began arriving, their muted conversations creating a gentle backdrop to this moment of revelation. Will nodded thoughtfully. "You know, Karen, true luxury isn't about exclusion. It's about excellence." "Excellence? In our products, yes. But more importantly, excellence in how we treat every person who walks through those doors." Karen's fingers traced the smooth curve of the car's hood, her reflection distorted in its perfect finish. "I've been thinking about that first day," she said carefully, "about how I treated you and how many others I might have treated the same way. I kept telling myself I was maintaining standards, but you were really maintaining barriers," Will finished for her. "The question is, are you ready to help break them down instead?" Before Karen could respond, the first customers of the day entered the showroom. A young couple dressed casually, looking slightly intimidated by the luxurious surroundings. The old Karen would have immediately made assumptions about their buying potential. Now she hesitated, looking at Will. He gestured toward the couple with a slight smile. "Show me what you've learned." Karen took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. As she walked toward the customers, her usual confident stride remained, but something was different. The dismissive edge in her expression had softened, replaced by something more genuine. "Welcome to Elite Motors," she greeted them warmly. "How can I help you begin your journey with us today?" The words were similar to her usual script, but the tone was transformed. For the first time in her career, Karen was seeing potential customers as people first, not just walking commission checks or targets to be assessed and categorized. It was a small step, but a significant one in the larger transformation taking place within the dealership's walls. The transformation of Elite Motors continued to unfold over the following months, rippling through every aspect of the business. Will Smith's vision was taking shape, but not without its challenges. The biggest surprise, however, came from an unexpected source: Karen herself. The platinum-haired sales veteran, once the embodiment of exclusivity and prejudice, had begun to show remarkable changes. Her journey wasn't smooth or simple. Old habits died hard, and there were moments when her former attitude threatened to resurface. But something fundamental had shifted within her. One particularly busy Saturday afternoon, the showroom was filled with potential customers from all walks of life. Will observed from his office. As Karen navigated between clients, her approach noticeably different from the previous months. Gone was the quick categorization based on appearance, replaced by genuine attention to each person's needs and dreams. The defining moment came when an elderly man in worn overalls walked in, his weathered hands suggesting a lifetime of manual labor. The old Karen would have dismissed him immediately. Instead, she approached him with the same respect she would have shown any customer. "He reminds me of my father," she explained later to Will as they watched the man drive away in one of their most prestigious models, a purchase that would have seemed impossible in the dealership's previous era. "All those years I thought I was proving something by keeping people like him out. I never realized I was just perpetuating the same barriers I once faced." Will nodded, noting how the other employees had begun to follow Karen's example. The showroom's atmosphere had evolved from one of subtle tension and judgment to genuine welcome. Sales numbers hadn't suffered. If anything, they had improved as word spread about the dealership's new approach. "You know," Will said, "when I first walked in here in that hoodie, I had certain expectations about how things would go. I never expected to find an ally in the person who initially proved my point about prejudice." Karen smoothed her perfectly pressed blazer, a habit that remained even as other aspects of her personality had evolved. "I've been thinking about that day a lot," she admitted, "about how quickly I judged you, how certain I was about who belonged here and who didn't. It's humbling to realize how wrong I was." The afternoon sun streamed through the showroom windows, creating patterns of light and shadow across the gleaming vehicles. A group of young professionals entered, their casual attire a mix of designer labels and thrift store finds. Karen watched them with new eyes, seeing not their clothes or appearances, but their excitement about being there. "Mr. Smith," she began, then corrected herself. "Will, I owe you an apology, not just for that first day, but for all the days before it when I let my prejudices dictate how I treated people." Will turned to face her fully. "The best apology is changed behavior, Karen, and you've shown that change is possible, even in an industry that often thrives on exclusivity." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of another customer, a woman in medical scrubs, clearly coming straight from a long shift. The old Karen would have suggested she come back another time, when she was more appropriately dressed. Instead, Karen's face lit up with genuine welcome. "Excuse me," she said to Will, already moving toward the customer. "Someone's here to start their luxury journey." Will watched as Karen engaged with the customer, noting how she focused on understanding the woman's needs rather than making assumptions based on her appearance. The transformation wasn't just professional, it was personal. Karen had discovered that true luxury wasn't about keeping people out, it was about welcoming them in. The success of Elite Motors under this new philosophy proved what Will had known all along, that excellence and inclusivity could coexist, that prejudice was bad for business as well as morally wrong, and that people could change when given the opportunity to see their own biases clearly. As the day drew to a close, the showroom slowly emptied of customers, leaving behind the quiet hum of success. Karen stood among the vehicles, their surfaces reflecting the sunset in brilliant colors. She was still the same person who had built a successful career in luxury car sales, but now her skills were directed toward breaking down barriers rather than maintaining them. 6 months after Will Smith's unconventional first visit to Elite Motors, the dealership was hosting its annual customer appreciation event. The showroom had been transformed for the evening, with soft lighting highlighting the vehicles and creating an inviting atmosphere. But the real transformation ran much deeper than the elegant decorations. Karen stood at the entrance, greeting guests with genuine warmth. Her signature perfectly pressed blazer and immaculate appearance remained, but the artifice behind her smile had vanished. As she welcomed each arrival, From CEOs in designer suits to entrepreneurs in casual wear, her interactions carried the same level of authentic respect. Will moved through the crowd, observing how his experiment in changing corporate culture had yielded results beyond his expectations. Sales numbers had not only maintained but improved, with customer satisfaction scores reaching unprecedented levels. More importantly, the dealership had become known throughout Scottsdale for its inclusive approach to luxury car sales. "I remember standing right here," Will said, approaching Karen during a quiet moment, "in that grey hoodie and worn jeans. Would you believe me if I told you I was actually nervous?" Karen laughed softly, a sound that had become more frequent and genuine over the months. "And I was so certain I had you figured out. I had everyone figured out, or so I thought." She gestured to the diverse crowd filling the showroom. "I never imagined our client base could look like this." The evening's highlight came when Will gathered everyone for an announcement. The crowd quieted as he took his position near the newest luxury model, the same one Karen had tried to steer him away from on that first day. "6 months ago, I walked into this dealership dressed in clothes that didn't match what most people expect from a luxury car buyer," Will began, his voice carrying across the hushed room. "What happened that day sparked a transformation that goes beyond sales techniques or customer service protocols. It forced us to confront our own biases and redefine what luxury truly means." He paused, looking around at the assembled faces, customers and employees alike. "True luxury isn't about exclusion. It's about excellence in how we treat every person who walks through these doors, and no one has embodied this transformation more than our senior sales director, Karen Mitchell." Karen's eyes widened in surprise. As Will gestured for her to join him, she moved forward, her usual confidence tempered by genuine humility. "Karen could have resisted this change," Will continued. "Instead, she embraced it, transformed it, and helped create something remarkable, which is why I'm pleased to announce her promotion to General Manager of Elite Motors." The applause that followed was genuine and warm. Karen stood there, momentarily speechless, a rarity for her. When she finally spoke, her voice carried an emotion that the old Karen would never have allowed herself to show. "When Mr. Smith first revealed himself as our new owner, I thought my career was over," she admitted to the crowd. "I had spent years building walls, thinking I was maintaining standards, but what I was really doing was limiting not just our potential customers, but my own potential as well." She turned to face Will. "You didn't just change our sales approach. You showed us that true excellence comes from seeing the value in every person who walks through these doors, from understanding that luxury isn't about keeping people out, but about welcoming them in." As the evening continued, the showroom buzzed with energy. Deals were being made, but more importantly, connections were being formed. Karen moved through the crowd, her platinum hair catching the light, but now her presence brought comfort rather than intimidation. Near the end of the event, a young man in worn jeans and a simple t-shirt wandered in, looking uncertain. The old Karen might have quickly ushered him out. Instead, she approached him with a warm smile. "Welcome to Elite Motors," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Karen Mitchell, and I'd love to show you around. Every journey toward luxury starts with a single step, and we're here to walk that path with you." Will watched from across the room as Karen engaged with the young man, noting how she listened intently to his dreams and aspirations, rather than focusing on his appearance. The circle was complete, from prejudice to understanding, from exclusion to welcome. As the last guests departed and the showroom lights dimmed, Will and Karen stood among the gleaming vehicles that had once seemed like barriers between people, but now served as bridges. The transformation of Elite Motors was more than a business success story. It was a testament to the power of seeing people for who they are, not what they wear or how they appear. "You know," Karen said, straightening an already perfect display, "luxury isn't just about the cars we sell. It's about the dignity we offer to every person who dreams of owning one." Will nodded, knowing that the real luxury in Elite Motors wasn't in its high-end vehicles or pristine showroom. It was in the respect understanding and welcome that now greeted every visitor who walked through its doors.